As I'm thinking about what technology tools to use, I always think about curriculum and instruction first before I think about the tool. And in particular, I think about what I want my students to know and be able to do, sort of how I want them to be able to generate their knowledge. So I think, do I want them working with each other and collaborating to generate knowledge? Do I want it to be sort of individually constructed? Do I want them reflecting on their own understanding? Or is it something where their learning is going to be practice-based and really situated in what they're doing? And is it meant to change their practice or change, the world, the broader community? So once I've thought about that, how I want the students to learn and what kind of knowledge they need, then I kind of look for tools that might match those needs. So I think if it's collaborative, what can I use that might help them to collaborate? Is it a mind map that's shared, like a shared whiteboard space, or a Padlet, or a Google Doc? Or if it's reflective, how can I help them be reflective? Could it be vlogging or journaling? Or if it's something that changes their practice, maybe it's finding a PLN or interacting with other folks online to get together to think about and engage in practice. So when I think about technology tools, I think first about learning, knowledge creation, and then think about tools that can support that. When I think about my favorite tech tool and how I use it and why I use it, I have to say that I'm pretty partial to Padlet. It has a really flexible interface, and it allows students to organize ideas quickly, and you can sort of pick how you want to organize, so they can organize it. You can force it into tables or rows. The students can connect ideas, or it can just be scrolling based on time and the newness of an idea. So I like that. I like that it's easy for students to use, and it allows them to collaborate with each other. It has a feature where they can reflect on their own responses and on other folks' responses, and it lets them really easily link to other sources of knowledge. So they can link to sites across the internet. They can include multimedia in their post, or they can just be from their own devices. You can upload Word documents or photos that you might have taken with your camera if you're somewhere and you want to quickly capture something and put it on the Padlet. So I rely on that a lot for a lot of different uses within my online classes. As I think about if someone is new to an online environment, sort of thinking about what advice would I offer, keep thinking about good pedagogy. So what do you believe about teaching and learning? And then how can you harness new technologies in this environment to support that? And think about what are some of the constraints too, because there are different constraints in an online space than there are in offline spaces. So are there constraints that might challenge your practice? And maybe the challenge sometimes is good. For instance, I think something that's really important to me is creating a community of learners. And in an offline space, you're together in a classroom, and sometimes I wonder if I personally rely too heavily on my own personality to create a classroom space of learners. And so a constraint of online learning is I'm not physically with my students. So I've been challenged to, which I think is good, rely on my students to create the classroom environment, make Flipgrid videos, introduce each other, and that is how it should be. It should be that the students help create the community of learners. So if there's sort of a tension point as you are in an online environment for the first time, sometimes it actually turns out to be a nice challenge to yourself to improve instruction too. So I think thinking about benefits and then also thinking about constraints and the ways that you can either work around or improve your own instruction through them.